We want to start off with a reminder that we are not doctors. Before you make any changes or try something new, always consult with your doctor and medical team first. Chronic illness can vary from patient to patient, so it's always best to consult with your own doctor for what is best for you. Welcome to IBDetermined. I am Michelle Harvey, one of your hosts.
And I am Mason Harvey. I am a patient and I'm also the host. I am also a host.
So I am Mason's mom and I'm also a caregiver. So basically, we wanted to start a podcast where we could discuss chronic illness, specifically Crohn's disease, because that's what Mason has. And we wanted the opportunity to kind of give everyone a perspective of this disease and any chronic illness from the standpoint of a caregiver and the patient. So you would get a full picture of what happens, what you can do, and how you can overcome challenges and things like that. So we came up with the name IBDetermined when we were discussing, do you remember?
The name of our YouTube channel.
The team. It was the team. Yeah, it was for Take Steps. So Take Steps is a fundraiser
for Crohn's disease.
But well, actually IBD. It's for the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation. And IBD, just so everybody knows, because it's in our name, IBD is inflammatory bowel disease.
Yes.
Not the same thing as IBS. So let's make that clear from now. It's very different. Yeah. There's a lot of people get that confused. But IBD in the IBDetermined name is for that particular disease. And the Crohn's and Colitis Foundation helps people with Crohn's and colitis, which falls under kind of the umbrella term of IBD. So that's why we have IBD in our name and determined, because we were trying to think of our team name.
We were determined to help find funds to find a cure.
Yeah. And to also just show, you can overcome.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of the meaning behind the name
of IBDetermined.
Yeah. And so then when we came up with our YouTube channel to host this podcast, obviously IBDetermined was a natural choice for it as well. So I think something we kind of wanted to start off first, and Mason was just recently at Camp Oasis. Do you want to mention what Camp Oasis is?
Camp Oasis is a camp. You can either go in person or you can go, it can also be virtual. So you can, it's kind of like Zoom or, where you can talk to other people who have Crohn's disease and colitis.
Yeah, ulcerative colitis.
Ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease. So you can talk to other kids that have the same thing. You can kind of get to see how they're, because all Crohn's disease for everyone, it's all different. So you can see how theirs differs from yours.
And you can also see what you have in common.
Yeah, you can see what you have in common too.
And so I think gives you guys an opportunity to actually meet another kid who completely understands kind of what you're going through right away.
And actually, in the last Camp Oasis we just did, and the final day, because in the final day they always have a special meet and greet. We got to talk to a really cool doctor and a nurse. You could ask questions and they'd answer it for you. So at the last day of every Camp Oasis, you have a cool little meet and greet.
Yeah, and so basically what happened is they asked the kids, mainly what is one of their main frustrations with this disease. And the number one response from all the kids was nobody understanding the disease. And so I think that's a very important takeaway and reason why this podcast is so important.
We want others to understand this disease.
Yes.
And we want to inform others about all the different things that you could encounter in this journey.
So we made the decision back in 2021 that we wanted to raise awareness and reach more people, reach more caregivers, reach more patients. And so the idea for this podcast came about. And we've waited a little while to make sure Mason was, ready, stable, feeling good, and ready to really talk about things. Because part of this disease, part of the ways you overcome is by being open and being honest and facing it head on.
No lying.
No. And I think that's especially important. That's why I think for caregivers to listen to this and for patients to understand that relationship and how working together as a team can only help. And that's something that I really wanted to discuss. And I think that we can reach that, reach people with this podcast that will hopefully help address that.
Yeah.
And it's very important, I think, to get a caregiver's point of view and a patient's, particularly somebody young, not just someone who's an adult with a disease, but talking to somebody younger. And because a caregiver can be any age, a patient can be any age as well. So,
it's important to get all parts of the spectrum.
And I would say from a caregiver standpoint, what's really been important for me is to learn more about this disease and educate myself as much as I can so I can help Mason and truly understand his needs. And I think, like, as a patient, Mason, what would you say is important to you in a caregiver? What would a good caregiver do?
A good caregiver always listens. If I ever feel like I'm in pain or I'm having issues or I'm not comfortable, I'll let her know. And she listens because she's a good caregiver. She's a very good caregiver.
Well, and I think but it's a two-way street, because it's important that Mason communicates with me, because I can only visually see what's going on, or you can look at other indicators like weight.
Well, because IBD is an invisible disease.
Right. And so it's very important for patients to understand how much a caregiver appreciates the honesty, and it's important for caregivers to not brush off those concerns or to not make someone feel unheard, but to truly listen to them and try and help them. So I think it's an extremely important partnership. And we've been a team since the day he was diagnosed. I mean, we've been a team since the day he was born, but as far as a caregiving patient team since the day he was diagnosed. And I think what is also important, I'd asked Mason when we were starting this to tell me some things that were important to him. And one of the things he said was, as far as someone caregiving, it makes you feel not alone.
Yeah.
I mean, would you say that's...
Yeah, it definitely helps. Because if you're just sitting there in the doctor's office, you're just talking to the doctor and you kind of feel alone. But when you have a parent who is a caregiver and they've helped you since when you were diagnosed and they've always been there for you, you don't feel alone. You almost never feel alone.
Right. And I think that can go for adults too. Even when you're an adult and you're going to go to appointments, I think that feeling of being isolated or being alone is a normal feeling, but I also think it's important to have a second set of ears to maybe hear what the doctor's saying and to help. It's because it can be very confusing.
It's very confusing to understand on your own.
It can be a lot. And doctors do a great job of trying to explain, but it can be a lot to try and remember. So I think that also helps. And so even if you're an adult and you want to bring someone with you to an appointment, I think that's a great idea. You should never feel alone or unheard with any disease. Another reason that Mason thought, like, even having a podcast, he said it, might help provide coping skills for people out there listening. We plan on doing several different episodes focused on just basically on Crohn's disease, and we'll discuss many different aspects of it. And coping skills will most likely be an episode or a few in itself.
Yeah.
But we're hoping that maybe the takeaway will be someone here will be listening and hear something that they'll say, oh, wow, that would really that would help. And that's kind of our hope, because we had to learn a lot of coping skills.
Yeah.
Both the
lot.
caregiver and the patient. Again, very different.
It was hard for me, but it was also very hard for her.
Because you don't want to see anyone
Your child
in pain.
Struggling. Yeah.
And so there's coping skills from a caregiver standpoint and coping skills from a patient standpoint. Yeah. And as always, we have wanted to raise awareness since Mason's diagnosis.
Yeah.
When he was still in the hospital, that was his wish, was to, well, number one, to find better treatments.
Exactly.
Right away.
There needs to be a cure.
Right away. Yeah. He goes, we got to do better. Like, you got to do better than this. And in doing that, you have to raise awareness, because the only way to find those better treatments is to raise funds and to get scientists interested in this and to do more studies. And so it's very important to discuss Crohn's disease. And we also hope with this podcast, we can maybe highlight some other chronic illnesses out there that deserve a little attention as well. And maybe we can help raise awareness for those as well. And the idea too, I think that's really important to me at this podcast, is it is going to be family friendly.
Very. That's very important, actually.
Right. Well, when he was diagnosed, I mean, do you feel as if when you were 11 when you're diagnosed, you're 14 now, but do you feel like there was anything out there specifically to help children?
No, I do not think that. There was book forms that they gave me in the hospital.
The pamphlets. Yeah.
But there wasn't really any video that I could watch and feel like this is not going to be weird. I mean, if it's... I
think
that's hard to say.
Yeah, no, there wasn't really much. I started just immediately, I got a book like it was Crohn's disease for dummies or something like
it was
that. And I read that in the hospital. He was hospitalized for almost 2 months and we didn't leave his side. So we were there, we were looking on the computer, we were trying to find sites. I went on Facebook, I joined several groups. And what I started to recognize is there were support groups for patients that were adults, and there were not as many options for children, and specifically caregivers as well. So I would join groups where the patients had already come together, they were adults, and I would learn from them more about the disease. But what I also learned is the disease is very different for children as well. It's much more chronic actually in kids. And what I might have learned on an adult, what the adults were talking about, might be very different for the kids. And so I felt like I wanted something where we didn't get too detailed into certain aspects of the disease, but enough to where kids could listen to this and they could feel like someone was listening to them, like they mattered as well. And or maybe they want to share with their friends or family members. We have family members who've gone to great lengths to learn about this disease. We have other ones who, I don't know how much they know about it. We do our best to educate and teach, but I imagine there's kids out here who may want to have say, hey, listen to this. Here's a kid like me who has this disease. And, and maybe there's caregivers out there who need to hear this and need to hear what the patients have to say and learn what they could do to support somebody to overcome, and things you can do like that. So
and also me speaking about my disease and what I go through might make other kids and others feel safer to talk about theirs too.
Which is very important.
I'm hoping by me speaking out and her speaking out, others will want to speak out, because it would...
Right. And not hide it and not feel afraid, be able to tell people, hey, I have Crohn's disease, and someone be like, oh my gosh, you are a warrior. You're a tough person. And I think it's extremely important that we make this show where anyone can listen to it. And so that's kind of the idea, that you can listen to as a family. If you're an adult, you can listen to this. If you're a child, you can listen to this, because there should be no reason why kids can't be involved in this. Even kids that don't have any disease or any chronic illness, I think that this might be very interesting to them to get some perspective and empathy and learn more about it. So basically, like we've said, our main goal with this channel is to talk about IBD, Crohn specifically. That was our number one goal. So like we'll be doing many episodes about different aspects of this disease. And we hope too, if you follow us or if you're listening, you can follow us on our YouTube channel at IBDetermined or on Instagram. We're at Team IBDetermined. And I think that we would love to hear feedback, comments or questions. If our ideas, if you have a question you'd like us to answer,
leave a comment.
Yes.
We might answer it.
Yes.
I will answer
or a suggestion of something to talk about, something that has impacted you and something we could maybe help with and discuss further. And we'd also eventually like to get some guests on here that have overcome some challenge as well. It doesn't have to be Crohn's disease. It could be any chronic illness, or any challenge or obstacle. And because I think it's important for us to really focus on overcoming an issue and how you do it, because overcoming doesn't mean solving the problem either. No. Because you can't always, like Crohn's disease is incurable.
Yeah.
So,
once you have it, you live with it forever.
Right. So just because you overcome something does not necessarily mean that we're saying, oh, the only way to happiness is to find a cure. And it's like, not at all.
Sometimes the way to find happiness is by finding a way to live with your disease and think of reasons you're happy you have it.
Right.
I mean, you're not really going to be
not
happy
that you're happy you have it, but the silver linings.
Yeah.
We've talked about who you meet. You've met a lot of great friends along the way.
My silver lining was I met a lot of cool people along the way. Yeah. And I got to learn about this disease too. And I want to find a cure for it.
And you've got to be a part of
so many things.
Like the science end of it. You've got to, meet. It's just been quite a journey, and it's been not that many years, only 3 years.
Yeah, only 3 years,
since your diagnosis. But we really want to help others be empowered in this and be empowered in any illness. So hopefully we can have some other people on here who'll give us their insight and to something specifically they want to overcome. So if you're listening and you feel like you have a story that you'd like to share or you'd like to talk about, also please leave us a comment or message us and let us know. So we'd love to talk with you guys and hopefully give you a voice as well. Like Mason feels, he's been given. And I think that one of the other things is we really want to provide hope and to educate people about. So there's going to be the aspect of educating and teaching, but also giving you out there listening that have this, giving you hope and not just dismissing you and telling you, oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine. Just take this and you'll be fine. And, it's like, let's be real about it. And let's really figure out ways.
Are you really going to be fine?
Yeah. It's like,
I mean, the disease, eventually it will get better, but it's not going to change in one day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's a lifelong, it's a journey, and it's
you really need to pay attention to it.
Yeah. Healing doesn't take place on a linear line. That's what I remember someone saying. You're going to have ups and downs all the time. So the more you're prepared, it is, it really is. And the more you're prepared for those ups and downs, that's
loops.
Many loops. Sometimes, just when you think things are going great, it might take a turn, but it's important to have skills to cope with that. And so this, hopefully we will, at the very most, we'll raise some awareness here and get people to listen to other people and understand and have some empathy, but hopefully we'll also educate and give you guys some hope out there that things will be better. It's all perspective too, and the effort you put into it. So go ahead, Mason, and do your thing. I know you've been waiting to probably say it.
Yeah, I've been waiting to say it.
And I'm interrupting you, so go ahead.
Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe on YouTube at IBDetermined. Yeah.
So please follow us on there. If you're more than welcome, just listen to us on here. But if you want to watch the videos and see, maybe if you like that, prefer that, you can watch us on YouTube. And you can also follow us on Instagram at Team IBDetermined. And same way, IBD IBDetermined. So it's on Instagram, and you can feel free to comment, to message, and we love to answer questions and hopefully help a few of you out there and give you some different insight into chronic illness. So thank you for listening.
Thank you for watching.
And we will be back
in the next video.
Yep. Thanks, guys.
Peace. We hope you will stick around, tune in, and reach out to us with your own journeys. We are excited to give you an inside view of what it takes to be a caregiver and what it's like to be a patient.
And most of all, we hope you'll maybe be able to apply something you hear on here that might help you in your own life. Sometimes life changes, and it's all about how you handle the journey.